Okay, we're come out of closed session. We're back on the record and resuming our regular agenda, which will be, well, in actuality, before we go on to regular agenda item number 2, why don't we address the issue that was discussed in Planning Commission. Jim, you want to make that motion?
Discussed in closed session. We retained Gordon and Reed's law firm to represent the village in an ongoing litigation case.
Not support.
Motion by Member Ed? Yeah. Kolakowski? Thank you. Sorry, I thought I heard correctly. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously approved by all council members in attendance. Okay. Okay. Now we can move on to regular agenda item number 2, the Planning Commission bylaw amendment for ordinance 180.2, first reading. Commentary from council. Okay, so the changes are set forth in red lettering.
So yeah, the first is the bylaws that the Planning Commission recommended council approve, and then the second one is the actual ordinance amendment we would have to do.
It should be a separate vote on each, I would expect.
Well, for the first reading, we just need
But it's, I'm
consensus.
sorry, just consensus.
Yep.
Okay. For we would be voting on bylaws, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
You would be
So
making,
bylaws don't need first reading, ordinance needs first reading.
correct,
Right.
Bylaws going back after the vote tonight.
correct.
It's not an ordinance.
So basically, at Planning Commission, we took back what council had talked about last time in making the changes that were recommended from here back to Planning Commission, and they wholeheartedly recommended making those exact changes. Is that pretty much clear, Steve?
Yes.
So this is the language we had suggested, Planning Commission approved. And so it's back to us now for council approval of the amended bylaws. And the language appears to be correct. Any issues? Anyone on council have any issues with the proposed language under Article 4 or at the conclusion
Article 9.
of essentially Article 9?
No, I'll make a motion to adopt the red line changes of the Planning Council's bylaws. Put them into effect.
Bylaws. Is there support? Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by President Pro Tem Dyke, to approve the Planning Commission bylaw amendments as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Unanimously approved by all council members in attendance. And then moving to ordinance 180.2, it's up for first reading and discussion. So we have highlighted section 6 and section 10. Oops. Shoot.
Section 9G.
Yeah, I'm looking at the old one. Okay.
So we have,
Anybody have any issues with proposed ordinance 180.2? Essentially ratify the
just need to
changes to
read,
the bylaws.
do we just need to read it for the first reading? Or is read it out loud to the record or read it?
Just need a consensus.
Mhm.
And then I publish it in the paper.
Consistent. So
So sounds like we have a consensus as to ordinance 180.2. It will be published in a newspaper and come back before council, 2 meetings from now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay. Agenda item number 3 is, okay, category B project bid award. So who's that? Manager transition?
This is an agreement that we have with the Oakland County IT Department.
We're on the paving.
I'm sorry.
Category B project award.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was jumping to the next agenda.
He thought this one was,
I missed the question. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, so we're on regular agenda on number 3, category B project bid award, which
Oh.
appears to is MDOT
Yes, that's
award
pretty
of
important.
contract. That one.
We're not giving our road money to Oakland County.
I jumped the gun there. I apologize. With the assistance of Fleece and Vandenbrink, we went out for bid and had 4 vendors submit bids for the road projects that we submitted for a Category B grant that we were awarded late last year. And you can see those bids range from a low of $324,000 and change to over $425,000. And based on that review and the fact that we've had some prior work done by Priest Paving that was very satisfactory. They did the 1.5-inch overlay of the Orchard Hill sub last year. And so our recommendation is that we contract and award the Category B grant contract with MDOT to Priest Paving in the amount not to exceed $324,714. And unfortunately, we were hoping that we would have an updated quote today. Our engineer, Jarek Rose with F&V, has contacted MDOT, the representative that handles the grant for us, to let them know that we want to modify the scope of work, which does not impact the need to go out for bid again, because we're basically wanting to reevaluate 3 of the roads that we determined had enough asphalt integrity and base that we could just do an overlay on the cul-de-sacs. But June Drive and West Allison are in such a state of disrepair, if you will, that they really need to be pulverized and maybe have some base added, as well as then it would be a 3-inch overlay, which obviously costs a little bit more. So that's why the prices ended up being higher, because when we talked to Priest last year and kind of got a ballpark guesstimate of what would it cost to do these roads, we were strictly looking at replicating what we did in Orchard Hills, which was a 1.5-inch overlay. So when the bids came in, lo and behold, all the vendors quoted at least 3 inches of HMA. So we're asking Priest to reevaluate their bid and come back with just doing an 1.5-inch overlay on those 3 cul-de-sacs. So we don't have that information today, but as soon as we do have it, we'll advise you through email what the revised cost would be. But for tonight, if you folks would approve the contract with Prees in that amount not to exceed, because that's their original bid, and then they'll give us a cost revision accordingly based on the revised scope of work.
I think they would be coming in the ballpark of the 400,000 then, and would the grant cover all of that?
No, the grant is a 50-50 match.
50/50 match?
But when we submitted the grant request, we were using Pre's original quote from last year, which was an 1.5-inch overlay. And so they had quoted about $170,000. So we got $85,000 from the state. So we're going to have to come up with a differential based on whatever their final cost estimate is. And we've got enough flexibility to move monies from major streets into local streets to cover this.
Cover the offset?
So will, the grant is only going to be for 85,000 though?
Yes.
It won't increase.
I'm going to talk to Lindsay Ross, who's the grant coordinator. Sometimes during the course of the year after they've awarded these grants, some communities determine based on what the quotes are, oh geez, this project's too much, we can't handle it. And so the monies might not get used. So we're going to go to the well and see if there's some surplus monies that have been rescinded, if you will, and see if there's a possibility that they could give us more money. But that's just a shot in the dark right now. I don't know that we would have that flexibility, but we're going to ask. So.
We're gonna get you a shirt that says that. I'm just gonna ask.
But we got a lot of confidence in Preece. They're very receptive to, assisting us in the village with our road projects. And I'm sure he'll sharpen his pencil and get us a good revised quote.
Work in the right price. Won the bidding war also, so.
Well, the one last question I have is I remember that originally on that Orchard, Macintosh and those, we waited, almost 9 months longer than we thought because of their packed schedule.
Right.
Are we in a similar situation?
The contract that they're agreeing to is to have the work done by November 3rd. So we're going to try to push to have it done as soon as possible in October before the cold weather sets in.
It's the last time, I think.
Yeah, I had a similar issue when I was in Grass Lake where the cold weather just came very early in November and it just wasn't practical to do the asphalt project, and it got kicked back to the following summer. So weather could be a factor, but we're going to try to get it done in October.
I feel a little uncomfortable approving that full amount. I don't know, it's just me. I'd feel more comfortable seeing what the actual cost is.
Is there any way that we could approve the contract, but put a contingency in? Which is unusual because normally the contingency is some not to exceed, and that's not exactly what we're facing here. So some not to exceed and some lesser. I don't know.
So I mean,
Well,
maybe make the recommendation that if the other contractors in here, are, at the 400,000 range seems to be kind of the differential, we cap it at that and hope it comes in lower, correct? Would be.
What I was going to suggest is, my recommendation that we're expecting a cost reduction update. And so that we would not authorize work until we receive that finalized price.
What you're expecting is going to be less than the 324,000.
Absolutely. Yeah, for those 3 cul-de-sacs, they're not going to have to pulverize, and they're going to use half the HMA. So
I thought I had that backwards in my head that they were going to pulverize and going with 3-inch. Okay. So yes, that would be less the amount.
A motion to proceed with the proposed repaving with TG Pre's paving. And a sum to be determined.
Mindy, I guess my question is, what's your concern if we've approved before not to exceed, and the price is not gonna go up, it's only gonna go down?
Right. I feel like just because there's so much variable, like there's a variable in like what MDOT might give us. I don't know.
If there's a variable MDOT is giving us, it would only,
still go
it would only,
down.
it would still go down.
Right, but what did we budget for this project initially?
Initial cost projecting was 170,000 based on the quote we got from Pre's last year, but that scope of work changed after the engineering review of let's say, quality of the streets that we wanted to redo. So
I guess that's where my discomfort comes in, is like an amount not to exceed twice the amount that we thought that we were budgeting for. I don't know.
If the motion was to approve the contract with Pre's, and a sum not to exceed the 324, from all the information we've been provided, it's going to come in less.
Right, but do you see what I'm saying is like we budgeted 180,000, but I'm approving up to 324.
But these are new bid, no, because it was rebid with updated engineering scope, so it's not, I mean, I know what we budgeted, but that's not reality. And we had 4 bids come in on the new specs, correct? And what we budgeted was old information based off of last year.
I'm in at 300.
it's a plus. I'm hoping it could be 275 or less.
It's in that situation. We don't have any information on the table that would indicate this turn out to be adverse.
Well, we're gonna
And
be
you
more,
guys can vote however you want.
we're gonna
Just
be
say
more
that.
than the 170. I mean, reality, right?
What's that?
We're gonna be more than the 180
Right. I just
per their
feel
original,
like we
because
should
they quoted 1.5 overlay. There's a few streets that have to have 3 inches.
No, I understand that, but when they did the budgeting process, they budgeted 170 because we were basing that on the information we had at the time and a quote from last year.
I don't disagree with that.
Since that time, we had engineering specs done where they had to rework the price and send it to bid. We had 4 bids that came in with a price that we've got in front of us with all the information we need in front of us. If we make the decision tonight, the only negative thing, nothing negative can happen. The only good thing that can happen is we don't pay this full amount. And David's assured us that the money that wasn't budgeted, because the budget was based on old information, we can bring over from major streets and not have a big.
What if I don't want to bring over all that money from Major Street? I think that's the problem I'm having, is
Because-
like, what's $100,000 extra dollars?
Because the
that-
only major streets we have are St. Clair and Van Dyke, and the work on St. Clair is covered through the federal grant, correct?
That's right.
Plus, if we don't approve it tonight, then it's not going to get repaved this year.
is that
If we delay it, it is. David said, we hope we can do it in October.
In fact,
We won't get on their schedule for another 2 weeks.
MDOT already sent me an email with the contract agreement to send back to them, with the approving the grant. So,
For the $85,000.
Yeah.
So whatever we approve is minus $85,000.
Does the grant expire or is the money already in the village?
I know that the grant won't expire. We just need to acknowledge that we're accepting it.
But then we're at the mercy of the market changes and price hikes and all of those sorts of things. So how much, I guess, to put the other council members at ease, how much money is in the major streets? I guess, we do have to transfer more than planned. We're still
Already-
covered.
We've already transferred from a budget standpoint. We're going to move just under 120,000 from major to local to help cover this road project. But we'll have to do more And as we indicated earlier in the year, when we submit a asset management plan to Transportation Asset Management Council here in the very near future, which we'll be able to complete very quickly because now we have updated PACER ratings for the entire village. And so that's an integral part of the asset management plan. It gives us more flexibility. That 120,000 is half of the major streets budget. So we can actually transfer more money, and major streets does have, I don't want to say a healthy, but it has a higher reserve as far as general fund goes compared to.
And are
local
we-
streets.
We're not totally draining
Are we-
the bank over here, and we're covered
Well,
by
no.
a federal grant.
From a financial standpoint, are we comfortable with where the balance on the major streets will be if we do these transfers?
I would say yes. I wouldn't come to the table and ask you for that if I wasn't comfortable with that. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
either.
up close to.
Oh, according to
half-
this, in the meeting minutes right here, it's $477,486,
Thank you.
23-24 budget.
So
I
if we
thought it was
were,
close to $500,000.
yeah, so even if it was at 250, we'd still have $250,000 sitting in major streets, sitting there, plus any potential grant money out
Right.
there.
Yeah, because it looks like all the revenue for major streets offsets all of our expenses for 23-24 fiscal year. So currently, we're not touching the fund balance.
That's correct.
What if MDOT approved a certain scope of work
That's
and
why,
we're changing the scope of work?
and they usually don't have a problem with that. They've already been advised that we want to modify the scope of work, and we're just waiting for a confirmation from Ms. Ross that that's acceptable.
But either way, the grant could be capped, or if there is additional funds, they could allocate more.
Sure. This is a very minor adjustment to the scope of work. You know, we're still over half of the work, over half of the linear feet of this project is pulverized and 3-inch HMA. We're just reducing the cul-de-sacs, which are,
Ask this, so if we reduce the scope of work and the price of if we reduce the scope of work, the grant was 85,000. If we reduce the scope of work, does the grant get reduced any
Proportionally,
percentage?
yeah.
oh, no,
So that 85,000 is guaranteed.
absolutely.
With respect to Councilmember Steffler's concerns, I'll make the motion that we approve the Pre's bid of not to exceed $324,714 for the Category B road grant project for West Ellison, St. Joseph Court, and Janet Lane, June Drive, and Don Drive, as presented.
Support.
Excuse me, motion made by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Kukowski for the Category B project award that to be awarded to. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A 5-1 vote by all council members in attendance. Unanimous. I don't know if I need to say that, but. Okay. So let's see if we're going to get out of here before midnight. Resolution 230802, Oakland County IT Services Agreement. It's regular agenda item number 4. So whose is this?
Chief Martins, he's not here. It's,
But he,
I know what it is, though.
Table.
Go ahead, dude.
yeah, Chief Martin drafted a memo to your attention. Basically, it's the same agreement as we currently have with Clemens. Oakland County helps provide that service for the police department.
It's a needed service. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. we don't have any choice to do otherwise, quite frankly. That's just part of our system that makes it work. It,
Kim, by chance, do you know, are they increasing their fees at all this year, or do we not have that knowledge at this point?
I don't have that answer
Okay.
right here, right now.
Does that come in a different, is that just paid out or does that come to us for approval?
It was actually on the financial pages.
It's
This,
usually a quarterly
Okay.
bill.
yeah, it was paid in this last quarter. I just saw it here earlier.
Has there ever been an investigation of any other service provider of this magnitude, or is Oakland County the only one?
I think they're the go-to
The
folks.
go-to? Okay.
Yeah, nobody else is gonna even come close to touching this. So this is all your in-car. There's so many things that we don't even use.
Okay.
I went down and got training on it in Oakland County, and you can get heat maps based on how many accidents, where they're happening in your village, where the crime rate is by crime type. There's all sorts of county-wide, statewide, village, township. You could dig into all of that using, and it's all, there's only a few in southeastern Michigan that don't provide their data back to Clemens for their database. Like all the police departments around use it and fill the information. And then it also helps you generate your daily reports, your accident reports, all your other criminal reports that are all built into it. So it carries stuff over. And it also connects with other systems that state and federal agencies use. Yeah.
oh, sounds
Yeah.
like one.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the Clemens. I mean, it's,
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Steffler to approve Resolution 23-08-02, the Oakland County IT Services Agreement. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Oh,
Aye.
we need a roll call.
Objection?
Oh, roll
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry, it's resolution. Roll call.
Feldman,
aye.
Kuligowski,
Aye.
Powell.
Aye.
Steffer. Aye. Dyke.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye. Unanimously approved by all those council members in attendance. Regular agenda, item number five, angled parking, Burley Park.
At our last meeting, I think I broached the topic of providing some parking spaces at the Burley Park. And you folks suggested that I reach out to our friends at the American Legion to get their input. And I did do that. And after further consideration of what I thought might be a viable scenario, where there's enough space there to put in 8 angled spaces. But after doing some further research, we found out that the right of way for Branch Street is only 40 feet wide. So that gives us 20 feet each side of the middle of the road. And after sharing the thought process with Commander Bowman of the American Legion, I decided that we would have maybe less resistance, if you will, to put it mildly. He had reservations about impeding into the grassy area of the park, and I can appreciate his concern. But as I look at what we've initially done with a very modest investment in sprucing up the memorial area, and when you look at other memorials that are in place in other communities that I would say are more elaborate, have some masonry work and things of that nature, more landscaping, etc. I think there's a lot more that we can do to enhance the beauty of the Burley Park. And I think, as I indicated to him, it's kind of a win-win situation. If we have some degree of parking there, whatever it is, that it provides an opportunity for people to visit the park and be able to park nearby. And if nobody's visiting the park, there's more spaces for people to park that would visit the downtown. And if you've driven through the downtown district at all during the day, you'll note that the municipal lot behind the physical therapy business, as well as Rustic Bluebird and so on, that parking lot is generally very full. And a lot of the employees that work at those businesses are parking on West St. Clair because we created parking spaces to accommodate people to be able to park directly behind the businesses, as well as Mrs. Muir has been very hospitable to certain members of the business community and has allowed them to park on her vacant lot, which Jim Alec and I had a conversation yesterday, and we're going to pursue that avenue as well too, to see if she'll entertain the idea of either leasing or selling that parcel to us for some future parking development. But anyway, at the end of the day, I came up with a variation of the angled parking, and with that 10-foot right-of-way that I feel as the street administrator and the village manager, I have the wherewithal to just basically go in and take control of it, that it's our domain, that we can put in 4 parallel parking spots in that street. And based on a cost estimate from Priest Paving, as I had the chance to chat with him before the bid opening last week, he ballparked to dig out 6 inches, put in some aggregate, and then 3 inches of asphalt, that it would cost about $30,000 to put in 4 parking spaces there. And so that's money that we don't currently have budgeted, but just looking down the road, that's something that I'd like to plan for in the future. And based on the conversation that we had at the Planning Commission as well as here, that I'd like to go back to the Planning Commission with a site plan for parallel parking there. And another tidbit of information that came about in our discussion with our planner, Caitlin Hobbin, was that we don't have any sidewalks on Branch Street on the west side of the road. And so if we want to continue the connectivity in the downtown district, if we have parallel parking, it makes it, I would say, much more conducive to be able to put in a sidewalk that connects at West St. Clair. And in the future, assuming that we have some success with acquiring the vacant land that Mrs. Muir owns, that we could continue that sidewalk on that parcel as well, and then be able to connect to the sidewalks that's south of that vacant lot. So that's kind of the vision that I wanted to share with you tonight, and get your feedback and see if you agree that it makes sense for us to at least increase some parking availability in the future and help accommodate visitors to the Burley Park as well as part of our long-term plan to continue enhancing the park there.
Sense.
So-
I just had a quick question if that's in the downtown development.
It is not. It would be village-owned property. And in one sense, and I guess your question just jogged my mind that I just wanted to comment on, that parcel of land was donated to the village back in 1957. And one of the stipulations was that it could not be used for commercial activity. You're putting in parking spaces, and that's just for commercial purposes. Well, in my view, it's community enhancement. Anything that we do to the park is community enhancement. Putting in sidewalks for walkability is community enhancement. So when I look at that parcel and some of the things that we want to try to accomplish long term, I look at it as an investment in that particular section of our town. And so it concerns that veterans or anybody else might raise about, well, you're violating the spirit of what was given to the village. I would respectfully disagree.
Providing access to it.
Yeah, because
Have we
we
ever
can,
considered an alternate parking solution? Meaning instead of asphalt, so not common in Michigan, but very common out in Colorado, Colorado Springs, and other countries, a lot in Europe. They'll put a hex grid down so that water can pass through, grass can grow up, but it's 6-inch tall concrete block, basically, where it doesn't wear down and turn into a mud pit. It's still a parking spot, but
Right.
on the first glance, it looks kind of like it's still lawn. So it
Exactly.
looks still like a parking lot. They make them in different colors. So you could put yellow topped ones as stripes that are just built in so you could see the spots.
Exactly.
Um,
I appreciate you making that comment because I haven't had the chance to do the research, but I've been to enough seminars to hear about environmental friendly parking lots that are permeable, that allow the water to permeate through, and so that's something that I want to investigate because there might be some grant monies that could help fund that type of paving project, if you will.
Similarly with that vacant lot, most of the time people don't park there. It looks like grass, but if it's a parking lot that still looks like grass but can handle cars and the normal wear and tear of it, might be an option to keep things looking a little less like the concrete jungle.
Right. The other thing with the parallel parking is that we don't have to worry about the hedgerow at this point. We would have had to remove that to allow for angled parking. So that's another expense that, we don't have to deal with at this juncture. So,
I guess I do have concern because I think the park was given to the veterans and it's kind of hallowed ground and it was given for a specific reason. And the veterans are not happy with us intruding. So I kind of do disagree that we can just swoop in and do what we want to do. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I wouldn't want to just say yes to the idea without hearing what their concerns would be. I think I'd be a little bit more receptive of it if we did kind of Pete's idea where it kind of keeps the flavor of the park there, the look of it at least. So I guess my question is, what would be the logistics? If we say, yeah, you can go ahead with a site plan, that would go to planning commission, they would approve it. Does it still have to come back here for us to approve the final project, or as street administrator, do you just say, hey, I've got my site plan, I'm doing this?
I'd like to explore, the potential of being able to implement a, let's say, environmentally friendly parking space, as Councilmember Feldman suggested, and come back to the table with that type of plan and format. This is something that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a period of time of research and applying for grants, perhaps, to, try to implement something of that nature.
Or are we just saying, are we approving anything tonight, or are we just saying continue with the concept?
Well, and the American Legion is meeting this coming Sunday, and Mr. Bowman was going to share the prospect of putting in some parallel parking at the facility there. So we don't have that feedback yet.
And
But-
I'd like to hear that before we proceed. I mean, I'm not fully opposed to it, but I mean, the downtown people less than a year ago wanted to pulverize the park and make it an entire parking lot. And it was given for a reason. So I think we need to, not taking away from the seriousness and the benefits of what you're exposing, but I think from the perspective of what the park was given for and the veterans and the service they gave, we really have to give deep thought to the meaning of what that park is.
I think if it's sold as better access to the park, as I've driven by that many times, and it's like, it's great, it's beautiful, but it's M53. I mean, there's no good way to stop and enjoy it and really get there easily. So if there was parking access, it's something you could swing in and pay respects or enjoy the scenery of the park. So I think some parking spots make sense, but yeah, let's do it in a good, smart way.
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to, postponing a decision on this. I wanted to, share with you my latest concept that, instead of angled parking, which would be 8 spots and really, impede into the grass area.
This concept, no, it's not a bad concept, and I think the concept you have here compared to the 8 is better. And I think if you added Pete's idea, if it's feasible, that would sell me a bit more.
Well, and I think their input on what they'd appreciate and would accept, and especially if it's sold as an improvement. And I mean, I could see it's a line of old bushes to me. You know, I'm looking at it like, what's the beauty in that piece of grass that just melds into the asphalt? You know, but if it was like,
I guess I'm not opposed. I guess my concern is, okay, so it's the park, it's Burley Park. It was given to the veterans, but we're going to take this little part here and make a parking lot. What happens 5 years from now? Oh, we need to take more of it because there's more, you know what I'm saying? Once we
not
start,
if you're, I think not if it's like a plan where you're putting a sidewalk in and maybe you take out those crappy bushes and put in some nice trees.
Some
A
big
little
shade
harder to get
trees.
rid of. Or
Yeah.
more
Right.
stripe it up and, you know, that's all we
So I'm
get
not
out
saying
of
I'm
it.
fully
Yeah.
against the concept. I'm just saying I think we need to break it a little bit, see what they have to say, and then go from there.
Very good.
I agree with that. And we should hear what their feedback is before proceeding.
I mean,
But
even if they didn't have a parking spots, at least a sidewalk along that side would be nice. You could walk along the side of the park.
Right.
Like, because not all the veterans are, you know, going to run across that park, right? They show up there in wheelchairs and other,
That'd be more accessible.
yeah, so you can access the park a little easier if you have sidewalks on at least two sides.
Is it worth investigating more seriously purchasing the parcel of land or a portion of the parcel where those cars currently are parked along Branch Street?
Yes.
So we're not,
There's complications there.
Yeah, but
There's some historic complications there.
former council member Alec and I are partnering together. He has a very close relationship with that owner, and we're going to make a presentation to her to gauge her willingness to either lease or sell.
I guess my idea there is you may be able to get the parking you desire without having to intrude onto the existing park.
That's certainly an option if we can come to terms. Yeah.
Successful.
All right, very good. Well, I appreciate your feedback, and I guess at a minimal point, the 4 parallel angled, four parallel spaces is maybe more preferable versus the 8 angled that would intrude more into the
Yes.
lot.
I think based on what they say, I feel like if the angled ones were done in the right way and it led to the beautification of the park, is it the space? I mean, is it like the square footage, or is it the actual, what it looks like? Like if you're beautifying it at the same time as you're putting those parking spaces in, I'd be interested in hearing what they would say. Is like, well, show me the concept. What would both look like?
And maybe prefer the angled parking space and willing to
If it
sacrifice
looks,
a portion of
if it looks a different way of like, okay, well, this is what it would look like. This is how we can make it look nice.
Sounded with the angled parking, there would be no option to put a sidewalk in without taking more space into the park.
That's true. We'd have to scarf up another 5 feet for a sidewalk.
Is it square footage or is it reverence of the space and how it looks and the functionality of it?
So I think we have to table it for this evening. But yeah, but worth discussing
Good information.
what their feedback is, their reaction.
Very good.
And if they want to come to actually, I was I had the thought that maybe they actually wanted that Mr. Bowman would actually come to council and talk to us.
I think he wants to review it with his troops first.
Sure.
So they're meeting
No,
this
that
Sunday.
makes sense. But certainly if he wants to make a personal appearance, we'll gladly receive him and hear
Absolutely.
what he has to say.
Just for a question, who maintains that park?
We do. The DPW maintains it for us.
I mean, I see like flags and flowers and stuff there. Do they have volunteers that plant flowers or anything, or?
Some of our staff actually volunteer to plant the flowers in the spring. And our DPW has been watering since there's a fire hydrant close by.
Okay,
Just
all right.
filing it away for their use.
Okay, so are we all set on that agenda item? We're tabling it for now and see what kind of blowback we get. So regular agenda item number 6, fireworks permit.
Yeah, this is an issue that I'd like council to make a decision on tonight. We've been approached by Mr. Steffler, Mark Steffler of Michigan Family Fireworks, to put on a brief fireworks show.
Relation?
Yeah, full disclosure, this is my husband's cousin.
Oh, okay.
And
Just want to know.
the party is for his aunt.
Sorry.
And this is for an event that's scheduled to be held at the Lions Club building, excuse me, on October 14th, which is a Saturday. And because of the types of fireworks that would be done for the display, it exceeds what we currently have as far as our ordinance that just deals with consumer grade fireworks that you can buy from the tents or the stores and can only shoot off certain days of the year by state statute that was approved several years ago by the legislature. And so I wanted to come before you because of this inquiry to, be able to shoot off fireworks for this special event that, the township has an ordinance that deals with those kinds of things. In my home township, we have an application process because our nonprofit group does a fireworks display for Flag Day in June. And so the information that Mr. Steffler has submitted complies with all of the requirements that the township would desire, that my home township would desire, that many other communities have in place for, a licensed pyrotech individual to shoot off fireworks. And he's reviewed the site where there's some open space, in the baseball field area and so on, that complies with the safety requirements as far as distance from buildings and so on and so forth. And so I've also reviewed this with Fire Chief Smith, who would plan to have a rig close by just in case something was to go awry, because that's what they do for, any fireworks displays that township applicants submit for their 4th of July shoots and any other special events that come up during the course of the year. So I'd like to, and I reviewed this issue with our attorney, Mike Gildner, and his recommendation, just from a timing standpoint, so that pending approval from you folks, that Mr. Steffler could go off and actually acquire the goods, because it takes some time to buy those materials, and his family and the relatives would know that they're going to be able to do this show in mid-October. And what I'd like to do is get your permission to approve the application and then come back at our next meeting with an amendment to our current ordinance that would allow an application process similar to what the townships and other communities have, and just add a section or two to accommodate that.
I do have one question, and maybe this is posed more to the attorneys who aren't here, or one sitting right there. Technically, the Village of Elmont is in the township. Why couldn't we just adopt the township's ordinance?
Interesting thought. I hadn't thought of it that way, but
I mean, we're
like
in
go
the
through-
township.
Go through that application process.
Just go through the township application process with that site plan. It's in the township, technically.
yeah.
But the jurisdiction of the village is the village limits, and we're not bound by the township ordinances. They're two different legally, they're two different jurisdictions. So but if we wanted to adopt as a village ordinance, the township's ordinance, we could do that. But it would need to be a village ordinance. We can't just say, we're going to follow the township ordinance. That would not be legitimate.
But we certainly might be able to adopt the application process that the
Yeah.
township has outlined, which is,
Yeah,
They've
and
been in
make
place
it,
for
make it
years.
our own.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
As
And that was kind of Mr. Gildner's suggestion that, because he has another community that did something similar between the village and the township where they just, adopted the application process.
So this package that's in here followed the township process? Because I
Absolutely.
appreciate the thoroughness of this. Actually, it's
Oh, yeah.
really well thought out and laid out. And
Yeah, in fact, I compared it to the fireworks company that shoots off the fireworks in Salem Township, and it's verbatim as far as the applications and the site plan and so on and so forth.
Site plan, but I think I'm confused. So where would the actual fireworks be shot from? So if I'm hanging out at the Lions Club on September or October 14th, when this thing's gonna happen, and I'm the dude shooting the fireworks, where is the actual shoot site?
I would say option B, which is in the middle of the field.
That's the middle of the baseball field.
Exactly,
Oh,
yeah.
it's at the bottom of the hill,
Sled Hill.
at the bottom of the sled hill.
And that meets the requirements for those houses bordering the back side of the park.
Yes. Yeah, you have to have at least 70 feet for every inch of shell.
And where would the onlookers, participants viewing the fireworks be at?
They would be at the Lions Club, and it also would be cordoned off. I think Mr. Steffler has said that with this option B, because he was concerned that maybe he'd have to block off the walking path.
Yeah, because
But based on, I think, option B site, that won't be necessary. But he'll have it roped off so that people can't intrude into the safety zone.
I know it doesn't get a lot of use after dark, but I've like a couple of years ago when the Heritage Festival was going on, I was rolling through there at 9:30 on a Friday night one time, and I'm like, oh, what are all the lights? And it was the band playing, and I had no idea what was going on. So, I would cordon off that park path.
Yeah, but easy containment,
Was-
right? You have the bridge at one side and the Kidder Road alleyway.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is people could be walking down the park path from Kidder Road, and they're shooting it off at the hill.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Right.
easy containment. You can shut it off.
Right.
You know, you
Yeah.
have two very
Yes, yeah.
clear spots that
Right.
you can close off, and most people don't walk through everybody else. Now, growing up here, those two houses that one yellow line goes to, the one right next to it, we used to be there a lot. It was my aunt's house. And we used to run up the backside of that hill and down the other side all the time. And it might be, 3:00 in the morning in the park. Just saying.
Maybe a violation of the park rules.
Not if you're not in the park when they show up.
So are we gonna provide any notification to the surrounding homes?
We can do that. We can
Yeah,
put it on our Facebook and all
I would
that.
make that as part of the policy, that anytime somebody gets a permit, that, general notification for people in the surrounding area be notified, because,
Pets.
pets and that sort of thing.
So you're
I think
still
that
gonna
should be
catch a
part
lot
of,
of.
I think that should be part of the general policy.
I concur. And it also opens up the possibility too that, hey, they're going to be able to view a fireworks show too, which,
Right.
how often in the
Free.
middle of
You can't back
October
off
do
the
you get to
party,
do
right?
that? So,
Yeah, and plus it would also help probably alleviate phone calls to the fire department, police
Yeah.
department, those sorts of
Sure.
activities.
Is there any restrictions on when you can pull a permit? Because, like, someone comes in and says, I want to pull a permit for August 23rd and music in the park's playing, and I want to start shooting fireworks off at 8:00, just so there's not a conflict with other events in the park.
So that's why it's.
I
gotta
know
be
generally
approved
fireworks
through
are gonna be done after dark,
Right.
but
Park's closed.
yeah, if there's already a scheduled event going on at the park,
Okay.
fireworks to be shot off. Obviously, the applicant has to be licensed
Right.
and provide insurance and all that good stuff. so.
Okay.
And the applicant would also have to have approval from the council, so even if they wanted to, we could make the consideration, correct?
Everyone would come
We
through
can
us. though.
officially allow this until the ordinance is updated, correct? Current ordinance?
We might be able to massage this in such a way based on some of the feedback tonight that we approve the application and adopt the application process utilizing the township ordinance as a framework.
No, I understand that, but if we didn't do anything with the ordinance, come October 14th, they legally, even if we gave them an application, couldn't fire them off in the village because our ordinance doesn't allow for it.
Well,
But it doesn't disallow it either.
if you choose to amend the ordinance, we can bring it to the first September
No,
meeting.
that's what I'm just trying to get a logistics of what needs to happen. I know we can start the application process tonight, but that means nothing if we don't amend the ordinance also. And do we have enough time to amend the ordinance
Yes.
before that date, with the first reading and all that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as we have the first reading on the first meeting in September.
Okay. That was my main point. I wanted to make sure we were logistically,
Very good.
So we all set with that?
Okay.
Fireworks.
Thank you.
Okay. So now is public comment time for any non-agenda. I'm sorry.
Does there not need to be a motion to approve the permit? Or is that just consensus?
Are we at,
Or starting the application process? Is that,
yeah, it's starting isn't that what we're talking about right now? It's starting the
well, it's
application
a
process?
it's a slippery slope.
right,
Because what you're asking for is to tell the guy that he can order his stuff, but we can't legally tell him to do anything until there's an ordinance.
right.
We haven't been presented with an ordinance, so we can't.
So I guess the best thing we can do is let him know that we have a consensus of council that we think this is gonna,
Favorable.
yeah, a favorable consensus of council that all the ducks will be in a row.
It's looking optimistic, positive.
I guess what's his lead time on his stuff?
That's
And that I don't know.
not formal.
You know,
So there's consensus to amend the fireworks ordinance.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. Mhm.
If that's an official motion that you folks approve, then I think he would have the confidence to order his material and, as Kim indicated, we'll plan to have an ordinance available at the first meeting in September so that you can complete the process by the end of the month.
Okay, that finishes up our regular agenda. I've already asked for public comment as to non-agenda items. There is none. And anything to bring to council? Manager Trent.
I had the pleasure of attending PAR Plan Professional Development Day last Thursday in Mount Pleasant. Some of the topics included FOIA, which was facilitated by the former FOIA coordinator of the Michigan State Police, who had that function for 25 years. So she had a wealth of information regarding FOIA. Also, there was a presentation on ways to do enhanced safety in parks with some pictures of real hazard issues that exist in community parks throughout the state. Fortunately, I don't think we have those in our community anymore, but it was an interesting presentation. And Stacy Bala was one of the presenters dealing with HR issues. And one of the things that she brought to my attention that I still haven't had a chance to review with Kim is that with legislation that was passed by the state of Michigan regarding the addition of protected classes, if you will, under Elliott Larson,